answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's talk about Capstar.
Okay.
So, what kind of segments in the commercial world do you guys like? I know you like multifamily.
We like everything.
Yeah. But I mean, how about development? What about industrial properties,
Mm-hmm.
retail properties, retail centers, office? Which ones? Because it seems like a lot of banks have kind of their sweet spot of things
Mm-hmm.
that they like to look at. So.
If I'm being 100% honest,
I know you guys like a lot of stuff. I know you like.
we do.
I know you like multifamily.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I will say one benefit to working with a smaller bank or a local bank would be that they typically do a lot more. So their box is a lot bigger. They're able to, they play in a lot more spaces, so to speak, especially on the local level. They understand the community, they understand the area, and they want to lend money to people in the area, and they want to continue to help the communities. So that's one of the reasons I left a big bank. But like you said, banks have things that they like. Most banks love industrial, medical space, things of that nature.
Yeah.
For Capstar, I would say, if I'm being 100% honest, acquisition and development is not our forte. We do it, but we don't do a ton of it. I personally don't do a ton of it. We have a couple of lenders there that's kind of their niche and their specialty. And you'll find that too, lenders in the area, they specialize in certain things. I personally do a lot of multifamily business acquisition. That's kind of my sweet spot.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Good. Other questions from the audience? So, don't all of you raise your hands at once. So, Tommy.
I gave him a chance.
Yeah.
Do you need a chair?
Yeah.
For sure. I'm going to join the panel here.
Yeah.
And so I guess with interest rates kind of been on the rise historically, and I kind of have in my mind that there's typically going to be a higher interest rate on a smaller commercial loan. Let's compare $2 million to a $10 million, but kind of if we can call it a middle of the road loan, like where are you seeing interest rates? Are you seeing them crest into the 6s? Or are they still in the 5s? Can you generalize on that?
Yeah, they're still in the 5s right now. We were talking a little bit about that earlier. With the market environment the way that it is, you have some banks that are already kind of forward thinking and they've already started raising their rates. You have some banks that are still kind of lagging behind and they haven't quite raised their rates yet, but they will get there. So you've got some that you'll find maybe a little bit below 5 right now, but there's probably not many left. For where I'm at, investment property, we're looking at about 5.5% is kind of where we are. We do anticipate rates going up more this year and probably more next year. I'd say the next 12 to 18 months will be pretty interesting.
Cool, thank you.
Lisa.
You mentioned business acquisition loans as well. Is Capstar an SBA lender?
Yep, we are. So we do have an SBA arm, and there's obviously lenders that specialize in SBA. You have to have a certification for that. And then there's banks that have preferred certification with the SBA, and Capstar is one of them. Yep.
So this lovely environment, Tommy brought it up that we're in right now with interest rates. Are you starting to see that affect people wanting to purchase commercial, or have you seen any kind of
I'm seeing it a
effect?
little bit.
Yeah.
I think where we're starting to see it even more is that we're finding that people are already not qualifying for as much as what they thought they could qualify for. So, I mean, a half a point on a $3 million purchase, that's quite a bit of money every month.
Yeah.
So they're having to kind of look in different areas, maybe come down on what they can actually afford, things of that nature. A lot of times they want a longer amortization, which sometimes we can and cannot do. It depends on the property. So a lot of those things come into play. But we are starting to see some of that.
So does that affect how much money they need to bring to the table to?
No. They still need to come to the table with at least 20%.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Jenna.
So what is your geography that you typically loan on? And will you loan on out of the state? And what about if the buyer is from out of state? What is the...
So that's another thing that is very bank specific. So whatever bank you're working with, make sure you ask them that question. But I will answer for Capstar. So if I have a borrower that is here in Tennessee and they can buy property anywhere. So I actually am currently financing a property in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and my borrower is here. She lives here, so we can do that anywhere. But if I have a borrower who is in California, I can only lend within a 150-mile radius of my closest office from Capstar. So, like, Cookeville is within a 150-mile radius, but Memphis is not. It is further than 150 miles. So, we're going to literally map the property. But other than that, if the borrower is here, we'll lend anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Good question. So,
How likely are you to loan to a person who is a W-2 employee and then at the end of the month he's no longer a W-2 employee, he's retired? How hard is it to get a loan?
That's fine. I mean, we would look at, are they drawing retirement income? You know, did they just quit their job and they're not going to have any income? Or if they're retiring and they're drawing a pension or, you know, retirement plan or whatever, and there's other funds there, we can always talk through that and paint the picture. So that's not a problem. Yeah.
you mean like those retired Delta pilots or something?
There's a couple of them.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, there's a couple of them there. Yeah, so, sorry, Garrett?
Oh, yeah. So you talked about the loan to the value ratio and the buyer coming to the table, you know, with at least 20%.
Mm-hmm.
Does Capstar, and maybe I'm just naive on all banks, but do they have preference or limitations as to where that 20% comes from? As in, I know, for example, you know, a lot of people, they want to leverage maybe the equity in their property, their existing property, in order to buy another property. Mm-hmm. So would that be looked down upon for that 20%, or does it not?
That's a good question. So that is pretty bank specific too. You know, we're looking at the history. I have lots of people who they keep very, very little cash and they leverage a ton of equity in properties. So it's really just about us really digging in and understanding that full picture. So we certainly allow that, but there's going to be a point where, you know, if you're not really keeping a lot of liquidity and you're really leveraging everything that you have, bankers are all going to reach a point where it's like, it's a little bit too much risk. We're probably going to back off, or we're going to want you to come to the table with more money. We may not do 80%. We may say, we'll finance 65% of that. You know, so it's just about the conversation. But we'll do it.
Great question. So
So
Jenna.
does Capstar require Alta surveys for all of your deals, and what are you seeing as far as appraisals? Are the time frames starting to tighten back up, or are they still really far behind?
They aren't, the Alta survey question answers yes, I think. I don't do that side of things. That's more the processor side. So I think so, but I'm not 100% sure. So don't quote me on that. The appraisals, they are still taking long, but not as long as they were. I think they're starting to catch up a little bit. But they're still taking quite, 3-4 weeks. So.
yeah, surveys have been like sometimes 3 and 4 months.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, they're really bad right now. So, yeah. Other questions? No. Yeah. So, there's probably other things you'd like to share about lending with the audience.
I think we talked about a lot.
Yeah.
I'll throw a
Nick,
softball
go ahead.
for you.
Oh boy, is it soft or is it a
Yes.
fast
Yeah.
one?
Just for the benefit, talk about, I guess, the size of the bank and what's considered, you're going to get different terms probably from a bank that's got 50 million and trying
Yep.
to expand their balance sheet versus a $1 billion bank.
Yep, that's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up because I actually thought about that before I came here today. So if you are dealing with a local bank, which again, there's lots of advantages, usually you're going to cap out a little bit quicker than if you were working with a large bank. So with Capstar, for example, there's kind of different levels of risk and scrutiny and how tightly we kind of underwrite that deal. But with us, once you reach somewhere between probably around 15 million or so, we're probably not going to lend you any more money just because we've got to have enough money to lend everybody else. So, because we're not that big, right? Like we're a local Nashville-based bank. But if you were working with like a U.S. bank, like you said, they have tons of money. So they'll lend you, they have different segments and they'll lend you tons of money. But most smaller banks, you reach a certain level, you have to present that deal to a committee or a board, and it has to be looked at, and it's underwritten a little bit differently.
So what's the advantages of a smaller bank versus the large
I would say
banks?
I would say the bigger box of things that we can do.
Mhm.
So I know when I was at US Bank, I was very limited. That's one reason I left. I got tired of handing deals to all my friends in the market on a silver platter. The year I left US Bank, I literally gave friends $14 million in business that literally booked in the market, and they were great deals. So I finally said, I'm tired of this. So I left. But smaller banks, we I think are a little bit more flexible. We're a lot more open to the conversation and painting the picture. So I think that's the biggest advantage. And then when you have a local bank, back to the serving the communities piece of it, I think larger banks say that they want to do that, but they don't. I don't believe that they really do, not to the level of what a local bank wants to.
Yeah.
So we really understand the market and the communities that we're in and we serve.
Right.
So
Okay.
that's the biggest advantage.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
Better question I thought
Okay.
just now.
This is a hard ball coming
I know,
in here.
right?
Yeah, this is
Maybe
a
more
fastball.
ambiguous, Maybe
Yeah,
more ambiguous.
Well,
than
I'm
that.
done.
Great.
Yeah.
So how would your answer, I guess, in terms of stuff maybe different if I approached you versus a mortgage broker?
You
Like
mean
when a broker approaches you and says like, hey, I'm brokering this deal for these guys
Yeah.
versus an individual coming to you. Is there any difference there?
no?
No. Okay.
And maybe that's individualized per banker, but I can tell you I can speak for myself, and I treat everybody the same. So I'm a fighter when it comes to my deals. I think Brian would tell you that. But I have people that are referred to me or find me through another, individual. I have individuals that refer other individuals to me. They're not using a broker. I really like to be a resource for people. So it's really about, yes, I want to get the deal done for you, but Capstar may not be the best fit for you. So it's about having the conversation. Am I the best fit? Do you need a broker? Do you need somebody to help you through the process? You may not. You may be very experienced. So
So she brings up a real good point, because I was gonna kind of go editorial on us here for a minute, but for me, I find it, obviously being in commercial real estate, for me, it's important to find a banker who, as Shell said, because she brought it up, I was going to say it, is that will, that has the experience and that will fight, and I think has the respect of, maybe her, chief credit officer and all of that, because I know when I take stuff to Shell, if I take a deal to Shell, she's going to fight. She's going to try to every possible way to get that approved. But the other thing I really appreciate it is she will call me and say, you know what, we have looked at this every which way, every direction, everything else. We just can't do it. However, maybe somebody at, such and such bank can get this done. I know that, with her being in the business since she was 5, and having those 25 years of experience, she can, she will recommend somebody. She'll say, you know what, this person may have more of an appetite for self-storage than maybe we do, or this, the situation with this deal may lend. And so she'll basically do a 3-way call, introduce me to that person, and then we go, that way, right? So I love that, she's willing to say, hey, here's who might get this deal done for you. I know I can't, but I also know that if there's any possible way to get it done, she's going to find a way to get it done, right? And so I think a lot of that is kind of on the, maybe that pre-underwriting and all of that stuff. She will try to get it done. So for me, it's important to try to build relationships with folks that, that I have confidence that they're gonna try to, there's a way to get it done, they're going to try. And if they can't, they're going to say, hey, here's somebody that can get this done, and let me make the introduction, right? That type of deal. So that's just my commentary on
Thank you.
banking itself, but that's why, Chell and I have known each other a lot of years, and so, maybe that goes back. I just know what type of person she is in trying to get the deals done. Jenna.
So we as realtors often have to get people ready to go to the bank, right? And there's realtors in the audience and some with varying different experiences. So maybe could you talk to us as how to coach our people as far as what to expect from a timeline standpoint, and also when things go, how long is it going to be typically with you, and then how long is it going to typically be with underwriting, and maybe the timing of when you're going to ask for things. And I'm not talking about specific with Capstar, but just like general banking, so that someone, if we have someone here tonight who wants to go and have a loan, they kind of know scheduling wise.
That's tough because timelines do vary greatly with banks. I mean, I know some banks that take 2 weeks to underwrite their deals, and it might just be based on the capacity that they're at that time. So that's really a question to ask, whatever lender it is that you're working with. But I'd say, the lender should be asking for as much information or that they need up front that they can possibly get, so that hopefully you're not having to go back and forth and ask
Yes,
for
by
things.
these things.
Yeah.